Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about part 2 of the comics of Heartstopper. Yes. And it is called Crush. And last time we looked at the first part, Meet, and had Nick and Charlie meet. And today we're going to look at the second part, where they're crushing on each other. So, hooray. Alright, let's go. Let's do it. Okay, Crush. Got hands reaching out, though they both look quite skinny, so it doesn't look like those are Nick and Charlie's hands. It looks more like they're just Charlie's hands. So that's fine. Alright, here is Nick in his beautiful bedroom that they pretty much got very close to this in the show. So I don't think they had an Iron Man poster because, copyright. So here we have Nick on the computer. Now in the show they use Instagram because I guess that's more common these days, but back in this day, it was Facebook. So we have Nick looking at Charlie's Facebook page and remembering, hey, did you hear some Year 9 has come out as gay? And I do like how on Charlie's Facebook page you can see the most recent post is from Tao, and he says, is this not you? And then we see passive-aggressive cats video, and I assume compilation, but yeah, that checks out. Okay, so 10 months ago, we have baby Nick with his baby hair saying, huh? No. Yeah, do you know Charlie Spring from 9H? Apparently he's gay. And I think it's interesting how they did this in the show, where they showed it as, there's not really much explanation, you just hear, like, it's kind of, they do a good job of, having, like, the cacophony of Charlie's drumming going along with Nick kind of remembering or thinking about what Charlie went through.
Really brilliant, like, he sort of passed me, honestly. This is an all-boys school. What did he expect? He's so gross. I bet he was looking at us in the changing room. He's probably dead if he's gay. Charlie, he's looking at us.
When he was bullied, and just kind of the voices of the guys in the locker room. And in this, too, also, they're just kind of faceless. I mean, all they have are just their grinning mouths and their uniforms, and I'm sure that's how they appeared to Charlie when that was going on. So yeah, and I like that we do see that Nick is kind of upset by this, but he doesn't intervene because, he's at that point in his journey where he does not speak up for that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is an all-boys school, what did he expect? Like, why didn't you plan for this, Charlie? Why didn't you plan to not be gay so that you wouldn't have to go through this? Now, here we get Nick trying to figure out what to say to Charlie in his first message. Hey, so what happened seemed really serious. Then, no, I don't think you should talk to Ben anymore. No, delete. More deep thought. And here's Charlie playing on his drums in his very cool bedroom, wearing a very cool shirt, which they pretty much gave Joe the exact same shirt, and I have this exact same shirt and a very similar drum kit, so I am Charlie, it is true. Alright, so then Charlie's phone goes off, and we find out Nick has finally figured out what to say, and he went with, hey, just wanted to check you're okay, Ben's such a dick. Yeah, I'm fine, don't worry. And I like that Nick doesn't just accept that. I mean, he knows that Charlie has been through some shit. And, I mean, he saw how serious it was. Stop messaging me while I'm busy! Oh, Northern Cambria, Pennsylvania. No, thank you. Alright, so anyway, Nick does not let Charlie get away with just saying, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry, with a smiley face. He asks him if he's sure. Is it cool and I don't care? And it's interesting here we have Charlie, like, just having the angstiest face, like realizing that, oh, Nick actually wants to know the truth. And so we have a long pause, 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. Charlie just having no idea what to say. And then while he's still trying to figure it out, Nick just spams him with reassuring texts. You can talk to me about it if you want. Sounds like a pretty serious situation, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But I'm your friend and I do care. I'm not Now, in the show, we get a full-on flashback, but here we get Charlie's explanation. Okay, so it started last September. Everyone at school had found out I was gay by then. The bullying had mostly stopped, I guess, and people had started to be nice to me. There was a group of sixth formers who stopped the bullies, but everyone in the school knew I was gay. Yeah, so here's the confirmation that here we don't have Mr. Ajayi. I mean, Mr. Ajayi doesn't even come into the comics until the third volume of the graphic novels when they go to Paris. So in this case, it's some older boys, some sixth formers, who stepped in and stopped the bullies and like kind of brought Charlie into their circle and thus led to him not being bullied anymore and also becoming popular in the world of the comics here. So I was practicing my drums one morning before form in a practice room, and I look up and see Ben looking in through the door window like a serial killer. He walks in and starts telling me how good I am at playing the drums, and I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck, because I've never spoken to him before in my life, but also kind of freaking out because I thought he was really attractive. Eventually he comes in and sits next to me and starts talking to me about me coming out at school and like how brave I am and stuff, even though it's not like I came out myself or anything. It just got out because I told a couple of people, and the next thing I know, he's just kissing me. Yeah, so I think they made a really good choice in the show to just show us this scene, but I do like the clarity that comes from hearing the story in Charlie's own words. So, like, we know exactly what's going through his mind, where he's very confused when Ben comes up. Just have Ben, like, leaning against the door, looking smug with a smiley face. But yeah, I think here in the comic, it still very much comes off as just Ben stringing Charlie along, Ben pretending to be nice, and like lying about thinking that he's brave and stuff like that just for the sake of having someone to kiss. Whereas I do think in the show it comes off as more genuine. It does really seem like Ben is being pretty sincere with Charlie in this scene.
That's really brave.
Well, it wasn't really my... It sort of just got found out. No one was supposed to know.
Well, you're brave for putting up with all the negativity.
But, of course, his own issues cause him to be an asshole later on. But okay, so then we just continued to meet up sometimes at school before form, and, like, I was so excited about it. I thought I had a boyfriend or, like, I was having some big romance. But I slowly started to realize he was just using me for someone to make out with because I was the only gay boy he knew. So, yeah, with him slowly realizing, I think we kind of see this... I think we saw this in the previous... chapter, because you can kind of tell every time we see Charlie and Ben kissing, it's not that many times, maybe twice, but every time we see it, Charlie looks distracted. He doesn't look happy. Like, he never looks like he's really into it, whereas in the show we see more of Charlie being kind of, you know, glad that Ben is kissing him, and like when Ben calls him cute, he's all like tee-hee.
I miss your face so much. You're so cute.
Okay.
But here he just looks kind of not into it, which he does end up looking in the show during the library scene. Okay, so anyway, then in January I found out he had a girlfriend as well, some girl from Higgs school. I don't know if he's bisexual or gay or whatever, but it doesn't really change anything. He was just using me. Ben in the show gave me the vibes of someone who was gay rather than bisexual, just because of the way that he seemed totally hung up on the relationship with Charlie and couldn't seem to care less about his girlfriend. But apparently, according to Alice Oseman, Ben is bisexual, at least in the comics and the books. Like, he does come up in the Tory book Solitaire in a very odd way, and some upsetting things happen, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, in that book, he is in a relationship with a girl, and it seems like he's into it, but I don't know. Show Ben and comics Ben are very different, so I think we could still argue about his potential sexuality. But to me, he read as complete closeted gay boy, but You never know. He could be bisexual. But anyway, okay. So Charlie says, I tried to end it, but he just kept pestering me. I thought I'd just meet up with him one last time to tell him to leave me alone, but yeah, that didn't go well, I guess. Haha. And even telling this really serious story, Charlie can't help tacking on haha to try to lighten the mood there. Okay, so then Nick is fuck, I hate Ben so much. I knew he was a dick, but Jesus, please don't ever talk to him again. And Charlie's like, I definitely won't. I will kick his ass if he tries to come near you. So sadly, we don't have the supportive straight friend line in this, which is sad because I think that's just a genius, a genius line of dialogue, well, texting dialogue, but still, and also a very smart move by Charlie to try to figure out Nick's sexuality. But okay, so Charlie says, thank you for being there. Nick says, generally, or in the music block, and Charlie says, well, both. And Nick is actually the first one to do a heart, so he does smiley face heart. And then Charlie starts typing, I love talking to you, and then it's like, no. I'm so glad we're friends. No. And then just replies with a heart. And I love how here we see Charlie kind of blushing and looking away, and then Nick, hand on his forehead, also blushing, also looking away. So, yeah, so even at this point, we can really see that Nick is feeling the crush as well, which I don't think is quite as clear at this point in the show. Okay, so then Charlie is worrying, should I have told him all that? He's informed the next day, waiting for Nick to arrive. He's worrying that Nick's going to feel awkward and won't want to be his friend. But here's Nick, and we talked about this a little bit last time, but one of the best things I think about comics, Nick and Charlie, is that even before they're together, Nick is just constantly touching Charlie. Like here he's ruffling his hair. We'll see later, like at rugby practice, he's always like picking him up and carrying him around and putting his arm around him. So just very just unself-conscious physical contact, which is great. Especially because, I mean, obviously Nick knows at this point that Charlie is gay, but it doesn't, and he doesn't know that he himself could be interested in Charlie, but he's still completely physical with him without hesitation. Okay, so Charlie and Nick still on great terms. Tao, however, is wondering what the fuck is going on. So here we get some of the time passing. Here's a little montage of Charlie texting and Nick and Charlie eating lunch together. And oh, here we go with the rugby. Okay, so Charlie running away with the ball, Nick saying, nope, not so fast, and just grabbing Charlie around the shoulders, picking him up, we're going this way, and like, just, this is so cute, like, I can't even, just, oh my god, put me down, and then, nope, with a little smiley face, and then Charlie just very pleased to be manhandled by Nick, which I can't blame him. Okay, and then Tao saying, I'm not being funny, but, like, he's straight. You think he's straight. And then a gym teacher who is not Miss Singh yells at Tao and Charlie for chattering. Okay, so Tao trying to convince Charlie to give up on Nick, but Charlie just can't do it.
He's straight, Charlie. Like, you only need to glance him to see that he's a massive heterosexual.
Isaac, back me up on this.
Ginormous heterosexual.
I know he's straight, he told me.
So, you need to get over him.
Okay, and then here we have Nick talking about a cheesecake he apparently baked over the course of 3 hours for his nan. And he's about to show Charlie a picture of it, but oh look, it's Nelly. And Charlie immediately all sparkles. You have a dog? Yeah, her name's Nelly. She's pretty old, but I love her. Charlie, I wish I had a dog. My parents don't like animals.
This is Nelly.
Oh my god, she's so cute. I wish I had a dog. My parents don't like animals.
You should come round my house and meet her. Are you free on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so.
And Nick just immediately, you should come around my house and meet her. Are you free on Saturday? And then Nick writing down his address on actual paper using a pencil. How old school. And and then just this random, like, Mr. Lang coming up behind them. Did you two swap seats? So I guess they've just been switching seats back and forth. Okay, so then on Saturday, now this outfit is pretty much exactly what Joe is wearing in the show, and I love this outfit. I would wear this outfit, like the flannel shirt, the jeans, just it's all perfect. And Charlie's hair looks excellent here. And here you can kind of tell a little bit more easily that he's actually had a haircut. In the show, I don't even know if he had a haircut. They might have just styled it a little differently so it looked like it. Okay, so anyway, here is Tori asking, "What are you doing?" Charlie wondering if it's too short, if it looks better long. Tori saying it looks the same. So I feel like Tori's relationship with Charlie is a little more tender in the comics. Like in the show, there's a lot of sarcasm between them, and she's sarcastic here as well, but I think there's a bit more warmth to it.
Is my hair too short?
It looks the same.
But is it okay?
It looks the same.
Great. Thanks.
But, I mean, I like both versions. I think she's hilarious regardless, so. Charlie, sharing with a blush that he's going to someone named Nick's house, and Tori is like, have fun. So Tori clearly knows that something is going on. So Charlie on his way over to Nick's house, rings the doorbell without hesitating for a very, very, very long moment. And here's Nick, and here's Charlie, and Borf, here's Nellie.
Hey. Hey. This is Nellie.
Charlie is in love with her, so are we all. I love how Charlie goes down to pet Nellie, and the look on Nick's face is just full of just, oh my god, love. And we get the idea that, like, Charlie's saying, "You're so adorable," and Nick is thinking the same thing about Charlie in that moment.
Hi, Nellie. You're so adorable.
But then he notices the haircut. Did you get a haircut? And then touches his hair. Now, in the show, it's kind of like, it's very straight boy touching. I mean, as much as Nick gets close to anything resembling a straight boy.
You got a haircut?
Is it... is it bad?
No, you look... It looks great.
But, like, here he's full on, like, caressing his hair. So the side of his face, like, whoo. So quite a bit more intimate, this gesture, and it stays for a lot longer until Nick kind of realizes, like, oh, I should snatch my hand back real quick there. And then I like here how we actually see Charlie meeting Nick's mom. She gives him some tea. And I mean, we know in the show that he meets her as well, because she comments on how he seems like a lovely boy. But I like that we actually get to see it here. But I'm sure they couldn't pay Olivia Colman just for like 2 seconds of handing Charlie a cup of tea. So, okay, so here they go into Nick's room. No dialogue here, just Charlie pointing at the lights with a heart coming out of his mouth, and Nick being embarrassed, I guess, that Charlie likes his fairy lights there. And then we're playing Mario Kart, which here we learn the backstory for comics Charlie. He's so good at Mario Kart because he plays with Oliver, his 6-year-old brother. And then you're just good at everything, you nerd.
I'm just good at everything.
No, I'm not.
You are, you're a proper little nerd.
I'm not.
And then Nick talking about everything that Charlie is good at. Charlie shushes him with a hand across his mouth and then notices the snow. And Nick clearly notices the fact that Charlie's hand is pressed over his mouth. And then it's snowing. Magical moment. Look at each other, and then off we go.
Shut up!
You know it's true. Get off me. Get off.
Oh my god.
What?
It's snowing.
Here, of course, we can see a lot better the fact that this sweatshirt is really huge on Charlie. In the show, I mean, Joe and Kit are not that different size-wise, so the sweatshirt is not that big, and they might even have gotten him, like, a bigger sweatshirt than even Kit would wear just to make it clear that it's a little big.
Hey, try this one.
Okay. It's a bit big.
I think it looks good.
Okay, so out we go into the snow. It's a winter wonderland. Nellie has on a little coat. We're catching snowflakes on our tongues.
But this is what you do at parties, right?
we're just enjoying the snow, shoving snow down the front of Charlie's coat because, sure.
Really like you.
Taking pictures. And here we get an extra scene before we have the scene with Nick and his mom. But I would like to say that I really prefer, as far as the snow scene, I think they did a magnificent job in the show. Like, just the music and the way it looks and how long they spend on it is great. Here it's a little bit shorter, but still magical. All right, so Charlie is freezing. And Nick is like, oh, you should have worn something waterproof. So Nick hopes he doesn't catch a cold. And Charlie's like, haha, it'll be worth it. So Charlie just shivering. But Nick has a brainstorm. He brings a snuggly blanket and wraps it around Charlie. And I like how we get a lot of scenes like this before Nick realizes his feelings, where he's just looking at Charlie. And just the look on his face, you can tell that he's just realizing how very adorable Charlie is. So this is another one of those where he's looking at Charlie like with his damp hair and his blushing face and like the blanket all snuggled around him, and he's into it. Okay, and then he turns away very quickly and is apologizing for not having any joggers to give Charlie. They'd be too big, ha ha ha. You should probably go sit on the radiator. Yeah, okay, bye. Okay, and then Nick is very disappointed that Charlie has to leave, and says, Nellie will miss you. And Charlie says, I'll miss Nellie too. Of course, code for I will miss you, and I will miss you too. Thanks for the hoodie, I'll give it to you on Monday. Don't slip and die on the ice. Yeah, smooth. Okay, and then we have the scene with Nick's mom, which is pretty much word for word as it is in the show. Charlie seems like a lovely boy. When did you meet him? A couple of months ago. He's in my form group. He's very different to your other friends, isn't he? You seem much more like yourself around him. Do I? You do.
Charlie seems like a lovely boy. When did you meet him?
A couple of months ago. He's in my form.
He's very different to your other friends, isn't he? You seem much more yourself around him.
Do I?
You do.
In the show, we get kind of like a bemused chuckle from Nick, but here he looks kind of confused and like not necessarily pleased, but just confused. So then we have Nick looking at pictures of Charlie in the snow, and Bye Panic begins, and then just staring off into the distance. Dun dun dun. And then here's Charlie back at home. I can't tell here if he's like smelling Nick's sweatshirt or just kind of biting it, but whatever the case, Tori notices that he's not himself and asks him if he's okay, and he says, I fell for a straight boy, haha, and then just collapses on top of a Tori, which is very sad. So anyway, the next Saturday, Nick's over at Charlie's house. We have Hay, and once again, Nick attempting to play the drums, not very well. Charlie making fun of him, them sharing the seat. So, Charlie grabbing Nick's hands, showing him how to play. And it's interesting that for all that Charlie has been crushing on Nick this whole time, he doesn't seem aware of the fact that this is like, he doesn't seem aware of that what he's doing could be construed in any way other than just friendly. Like, he's literally like sitting on a tiny stool with Nick and holding his hands while helping him play, but it doesn't occur to him that anything is strange about that. He's just very in the zone, and then is like, haha, you're a pro now. And it's only when he sees Nick kind of staring at him with a blush on his cheeks that he realizes, oh yeah, and stands up and is like, oh, that's probably cheating, haha.
They're a pro now. Well, that's probably cheating, though.
So then they're doing some homework, some maths, and Nick is not so not so into it. And then he snatches Charlie's homework. Now, I like this scene a lot because it really shows the more playful side of their relationship, which we do get to see to a certain extent in the show, but not quite as much. And that's too bad because it's a really wonderful part of what they have. So, Nick is like, well, Charlie is like, give that back, and Nick says, no way, nerd, and then Charlie grabs it and is like, ha 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 ha. So, and then we have a lovely, like, Nick wrapping his arms around Charlie, and of course, they end up in a rather tropey position with Charlie laying on his back on the floor and Nick kind of leaning over him, and then we have this great scene where Charlie's like, why are you so strong? And Nick says, I'm not strong, you're just small. And then, it's your fault for being a rugby lad. Oh, really? Well, why don't we just pop out for a cheeky Nando's then, mate? Hey, lads. It's just banter, innit, mate? Innit, bruv? Yeah, so, again, just part of the wonderful, playful side of their relationship. But, yeah, they end up kind of holding hands, and, Nick is leaning over Charlie, like, practically on top of him, and, Nick just kind of rolls off and is like, hey, so Mario Kart? And I love this expression of Nick's just clearly showing how badly he's doing at the game. And then they're having some tea, and Charlie's family comes home, and Nick meets everybody. Oliver is very impressed. Tori's kind of giving them the side eye. All right, and then here we have many hours later. It is now 10:17 p.m. They've had some pizza. They're watching Back to the Future and snuggled up on the couch. And oh, look, Charlie's asleep. And oh, his hand is just kind of laying there. Interesting. Okay, Nick reaches over with just the temptation of wanting to hold Charlie's hand and then is like, oh, shit, and does not do so. So in the show, we get him trying to hold Charlie's hand twice and just kind of, hovering over his hand and feeling the electricity between them, which is a really cool moment. But here, he only tries one time, which is fine. Okay, so then more bi panic, and I love how here, like, there's no words in this section, but everything is so clear. Like, we see him look at Charlie, we see him try to touch Charlie's hand, and then kind of the, like, oh shit moment of realization, and then he looks at Charlie and then immediately looks at the screen where we have Marty McFly and Jennifer, that's her name, right, kissing. And it's like, he realizes, like, oh shit, I feel the same way about this boy as these two people do on screen. So, it's clear that he's thinking about Charlie in a romantic way at this moment. Up until now, it's been kind of just little things, but now it's very clear. It seems like this is the moment when Nick really, really realizes. Okay, so then Charlie wakes up, and Nick is just like, oh, I have to go home. And then Charlie is not just with a blanket around his shoulders, but with it up around his head as well, which I think is very, very cute. So yeah, Charlie's like, I wish you didn't have to go, and Nick says he wishes he didn't either. Of course, you look so cuddly like that. And then a hug.
I wish you didn't have to go.
I wish I didn't either. You look so cuddly like that.
Do I?
Yeah.
Nick Nelson hug, TM. And then Charlie's shocked at first, and then relaxes into the hug, and then Nick turns away quickly. Haha, see you Monday, bye.
Okay, see you Monday.
And then Tori popping out of nowhere. I don't think he's straight. Okay, and then Nick walking home. Oh no, wondering what's happening to me. His mom asks him if he had a good day, and he's just like, yep, fine, normal. Goes to his room, has a moment of like, oh, hey, yeah. He grabs the laptop, he grabs his PJs, he grabs his beanbag, that's all you need. And it's off to Google. Am I gay?
Let's go out and shout the words we never said. I got my mistakes on loop beside my head.
And then looking at all the search results. And then looking at a picture of Charlie. I like girls, but now I like a boy. This ends on kind of a sad note where he kind of rolls under the covers and starts crying and says, "Help me." So, okay, so we're gonna stop here, even though this is not the end of the chapter. Let me see, how long does this chapter go? Chapter 2 goes well into the party. Okay, anyway, that's a good place to stop, so we'll stop there. So that was most of chapter 2, Crush, where we see Nick crushing pretty hard on Charlie, and Charlie being very confused as a result. So, yeah, of course, in the comics here, we really just focus on Nick and Charlie. We don't get very much of Tao, and of course, Tao and Aled. Of course, Isaac is not in the comics, and we don't even meet Elle until, I want to say, yeah, I think we first meet Elle during the bowling party, during Charlie's birthday party, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, but I hope to continue with the next part later, and we'll talk some more about the differences between the comics and the show. But overall, I mean, obviously they're both very similar, and they have a lot of similar themes, but there are some differences, like we talked about. Nick's a lot more physical with Charlie. We get to see more of the playful side of their relationship and kind of expand some scenes that there just wasn't time to do in the show. Yeah, and I'll also say that, like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way the show did things. I don't think there's anything wrong with the comic did things. They're just, with the way the comic did things, they're just very different. They're just different interpretations of the same story, and I like them both equally. So, alright, that is all for me. I will see you next time. Goodbye.